O'Brien Stadium on the campus of Eastern Illinois University is the site for our continuing coverage of the IHSA State Championships. Today it's the Boys Track and Field Championships. Hi everyone, I'm Jim Blaney along with Kenny McReynolds, and we'll be bringing you today's event. And Kenny, as everybody knows, it's been a miserable spring here in the Midwest. We've got a beautiful day today, finally.
It really is a beautiful day down here in Charleston. Temperature about 70, not too hot, not too cold. This is perfect weather for track.
We've got 2 track meets in one today. First of all, let's talk about the Class A Boys Championship track meet and some individuals to watch. One of the best races is going to be in the 200 meters. We have 2 of the best track athletes in the entire state.
Well, you're going to talk about Chris Jones right there. Chris Jones is absolutely superb. And Bonatumbe Ridley, this young man won everything day before yesterday. This will be a great matchup. Of course, Jones trying to win the 400 for the 4th year in a row.
As for the teams in Class A to watch, Babatunde Riley is from Carlinville. He also powers the team as they will try and win a state championship. Now, in the AA meet, Marius Bakken of York is going for something that's never been done in the state track meet before. He's trying to win the 800, the 1600, and the 3200. The weather may be a little warm for that, but he's the top individual in the meet.
Well, if anybody can do it, he can do it. And I disagree. I don't think it's too warm to do that.
You were a distance guy,
I wasn't a
Kenny.
distance guy. I was a speed guy. I really think he has a great chance to be the first one ever to do that.
Well, if it were hot and humid today, it would definitely limit the chances of Bakken, but it is a little cool, though. It is warming up and getting a little humid right now. And Jamar Collins, one of the best sprinters in the state, is also going to try and power Wheaton Warrenville South in the state title, Kenny. And really, everybody's watching Wheaton Warrenville South and York, and a couple other teams can sneak in there, but they're the main contenders.
Well, yeah, let's not forget East St. Louis Senior. They also have an outstanding track team, too. But everybody's talking about Wheaton Warrenville South and York, but East St. Louis Senior, they could sneak in.
York dominates the distances. Wheaton Warrenville South has the better sprinters. The relays could prove to be the difference. Kenny and I will be covering the track events in this meet, and Andy Alcock is along as well. He's covering the field events this year.
Jim and Kenny in the Class A. Matt Maddox of Girard has a great opportunity to be a 2-time champion. In the final day of competition, he leads both the shot put and the discus. In the AA, fittingly enough, a young athlete named T.J. Jumper of Springfield Lanphier will try to win the high jump. Gentlemen?
Thank you very much, Andy. We will return to Charleston for the start of today's events coming up after this timeout. And welcome again to O'Brien Stadium in Charleston on the campus of Eastern Illinois University for the 1996 Boys State Track and Field Championships. The A and AA titles will be contested today, and a sunny day, but the key number up there, Kenny, is the humidity, 62%. It's getting rather high, and it is getting warmer as the day goes on. Really not so much of an effect on anybody except for maybe Marius Bakken and some of the distance guys who are trying to double up in events.
Because this is a beautiful, perfect day if you're going just with speed, but the relay we have coming up, you're right, the humidity could play a factor.
Eureka, the top time in the preliminaries yesterday, 8:18.83. And you see the rest of the field. Eureka will be lined up in the inside lane. Normal University High had the second best time in the prelims at 8 minutes, 19 seconds, and 19 hundredths. And the first race of the day is underway. This is the 3,200-meter relay for the Class A schools. We may get a good indication here, Kenny, of if the weather has any effect, because these are most of the distance guys going out first.
You don't want to start out too quickly if you're going to run this 3,200. You want to take your time, set the pace. You don't want to spin it all up right away.
Please report to the shed area and beach coach John Kraft. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first track championship of the
Most of the field events are already underway. Andy Alcock will be along a little bit later on, as we mentioned, to update you on what's going on in the field events. This is the first running event of the day, 3,200-meter relay, Class A schools. And Chris Hood of Eureka is out in front of the pack, at least for the moment, and is holding the lead through the first 400 meters.
Well, he set the pace. He's been out front from the beginning.
I'll tell you what, Kenny, that's one of the most annoying places you can have a guy behind you run is right after the shoulder, because you know he's there, but you can't see him.
You can feel him, but you can't see him, and that's very, very difficult. But the thing you have to do is concentrate on what you do, keep your stride, and don't worry about who's behind you.
Greg Bartlett of Rushville trying to make a move on the outside, and he has now taken the lead as they come down to the final 200 meters of the opening leg of the 3,200-meter relay. You might as well burn it here because you've got 3 other guys to run, so you don't want to leave anything in the bank.
Well, see, now they're really turning it on, Jim. He's struggling a little bit, but see, now he's starting to turn it on.
And taking back the lead, Eureka, that's Chris Hood. He's going to hand off to Jeremy Zaka. So after the first leg of the 3,200-meter relay, Eureka holds the lead.
Pretty nice exchange also.
And at this point of the race, you usually see them start to settle in a little bit, because you usually have your guns go in this race in either the first leg of the relay or
your last
in the anchor leg. Exactly. Your guys on number 2 and 3, mainly their job is to maintain, and if you got the lead on the opening leg, maintain it. And if you got behind, eat up a little bit of the stagger before you can hand it off to your big studs who come in the final leg. Jeremy Zaka still holding the lead for Eureka. But notice where his arm position right now. He's not really bringing up his arms that high. He's doing all his running with his legs, and that's usually a bad sign for a distance man.
You see he was just passed. As you said, a good point, Jim.
Halfway through the second leg. And that's a little bit too much arm movement out there. You want to be compact and you want to be easy. Note the runner in second place, just cruising right along, no problem. Economy of motion, that's the thing you're looking for.
Save your strength.
Now into the final 200 meters of the second leg of the 3,200-meter relay for the Class A schools. And this is where we saw the positions start to change at the end of the first leg.
Coming out of the turn, now they'll spend all the energy they have now. Wow, look at this, just blowing away now.
Eureka has dropped to third now at the end of the second leg. Harrisburg has taken the lead, and they'll have a big lead to work with as they go into the third leg.
Well, Harrisburg really turned it on in the final 150 meters, I think, in the second leg.
Brian Weiss, a freshman, now with the baton for Harrisburg. And he's quickly passed, and now Rushville back out in front. That's Justin Ekman, another freshman. So a couple of teams here using their freshman runners in the third leg, which is really a pretty good place to put them, because sometimes you can give those guys a little bit of a lead going into the third leg. Our my senior year in high school track, Kenny, we had a freshman running the first leg of our 800-meter relay. He false started. We were running NCAA rules in the prelims. We were done.
You were done.
Freshman, false started, and that was it. He had a lot of upperclassmen a little bit angry at him that day. Pack of 3 coming into the final 400 meters of the third leg. Onto the back stretch, developing into a 4-team race.
Rushfield's up in front.
Justin Ekman holding on to the lead. He had the lead throughout most of the first lap of his leg, and now all of a sudden he's looking pretty strong and holding on to his lead. Ekman coming down out of the final turn now. He's going to hand off to Matt McClellan, the senior. I'll tell you what, Ekman is looking clean. That's beautiful form, and he's looking good as he comes down to the final 50 meters, and he will hand off to Matt McClellan.
A senior. Good handoff. Now, see, you want to have, you said earlier, you want to have your seniors on your last leg, the experience. And boy, he's flying. He is flying.
He is moving out and expanding his lead. He's being chased by Matt Kaufman of Eureka. And McClellan looking good as he moves down the back straight, but a long way to go. 600 meters left in this 3,200-meter relay. I'll tell you what, McClellan is losing a little bit of ground as Kaufman starts to chew up some territory.
Yeah, but it's Kaufman using up too much strength.
And he has made up almost the entire lead in the last 150 meters as they come to the front straightaway. McClellan of Rushville is first. Matt Kaufman of Eureka is second, but he is closing and closing fast. The gun goes for the final lap. It's starting to look as a question of can McClellan hang on and hold off Kaufman, or can Kaufman make up the final 5 meters that he trails?
Well, look at Kaufman. He's closing that gap. I think it's just a question of, did he use up too much energy? You know, I don't think so, though. Look at him. He doesn't look to be lumbering at all. He's going to take the lead.
Kaufman has now moved past McClellan on the back straightaway. But sometimes you use all your energy just making the pass. The question, does he have anything left for a final kick?
Well, McClellan is starting to lumber now.
And now McClellan is in danger of being passed and dropped into third. As Matt Kaufman, looking strong, coming down for the final 100 meters.
What a race.
And Eureka is on their way to claiming the first event of this 1996 Boys State Track and Field Championships. Eureka followed by Kiwani, and then finishing in third place after a great effort, but just not enough to hang on, Rushville. One of the things you need to do in a relay, Kenny, is just not lose touch, and that's what Eureka did. Other teams jumped out to a big lead, but their people were always second, third, sometimes first, right around the lead.
I tell you what, that was just a beautiful, beautiful race. They did everything the way you would draw it up. Take your time, stay within yourself, and they come away state champions.
Now for a look at the field for the Class AA 3,200 meter relay. The state record set by Thornton back in 1976 of 7 minutes, 38 seconds flat. Wheaton North had the best time of anybody in the prelims. They'll be right in the middle of the field. Okay, here is the field now for the Class AA 3,200 meter relays. Teams to watch: Lions, they are on inside of group number 1, right next to them, Chicago Heights Bloom, and in the middle of the third group, in the middle of the track, Wheaton North. They had the best time in the sectionals. I said they had the best time in the prelims. That's not exactly accurate. They had the best time in the sectionals. The best time in the prelims actually went to LaGrange, 7 minutes, 49 seconds, .81. And early on, going to the pole, is the number 1 runner for Chicago Heights Bloom, Mike Easley.
Lions Township.
And he quickly lets the lead go, and the pack forming as they pass the 200-meter mark.
In 8th place in the Class A long jump from Memorial. The jump of 21 feet 2 inches, Matt Heitzer.
300 meters gone. Wheaton North right at the front of the pack. Charlie Califf starting things off for Wheaton North. And this is the first event in which we are seeing the Dukes of York, who are favored to win the AA overall title. Wheaton North and Lions running right 2 at this moment. York running 3rd.
The crowd has really gotten into this.
As always, York expected to be dominant in the distances. They've had the great cross-country program under Coach Newton for all these many years. They've never won a state track title, though. If they could pick up a pile of points here in the 3,200 meter relay, it would be a big start for them. And making the move on the back stretch for York is the man leading things off, Keith Flatley, a senior, although Flatley now has dropped into 3rd. Brian Webb of Lyons Township holding on to the lead. Brian Webb moving to the start-finish line. He will make his handoff to his teammate, Alan Hassler.
Class A long
Hassler of Lyons Township extends the lead. And the rest of the field closes. Running the second leg for Bloom Township and flying is Steve Edwards.
Look at Edwards fly.
You should stay right there, Kenny. Notice how he slowed. Well, he kept going because Hassler was moving a little slower than you expect. Now he settles in once again off the right shoulder of the lead man. It's a good place to be. Running third right now is York. Running the second leg for York is Mike Marnier. And now all of a sudden, after fighting off the initial challenge, Alan Hassler looking good for Lyons.
The Bloom right there.
Chicago Heights Bloom has had a great track program for many, many years. And right now it's a battle between Lyons Township and Bloom Township for 1 and 2 here in the Class AA 3,200 meter relay. And Wheaton North, who we haven't heard from since early in the race, is being lifted back into this thing by Cameron Williams, as now he slides back to fourth. If you're running an 800 meter, this is about the point where it gets very, very difficult. About the 200 meters to go mark, and Hassler holding on to the lead for Lyons Township and now extending it, as Steve Edwards of Bloom Township has now dropped back all the way to fifth.
Yeah, he looks like he's really tired.
Into the second exchange is Lyons Township.
Lyons Township, Wheaton North, 1 and 2 as we come to the second exchange, the start of the third leg. Peter Wintermute running now for Lyons. And taking care of the baton now for Wheaton North is Chad Barrett. Many times if you hold a big lead in a relay, the key moment is the first, say, quarter of your leg, if you can hold on to a big lead. Barrett of Wheaton North is trying to eat into as much of the Lions lead as he can. State record once again set in 1976 by Thornton. 7 minutes, 38 seconds flat. And now it is starting to look like Lyons Township race to win or lose. And that's a key thing in distance running, Kenny, and you make a great point. That is so clean.
That is beautiful form.
Notice how loose his left hand is. So usually you can tell when guys are binding up when they start closing those fists, although the gap is beginning to close just a little bit. 49, 51, 52, 53, 54. You hear the splits being called out. And we have just hit 5 minutes into the race. Peter Wintermute well out in front for Lyons. Things have not changed since the third exchange. Chad Barrett of Wheaton North is running in second, although he is now being challenged by Crystal Lake Central's Ben Anderson. And Anderson has now pulled his team into second place. And there's York still sitting back there in fourth.
I think York is the team you have to watch. They're known for their distance running. And we still have so much time left in this relay.
Coming up to the final exchange.
Final exchange coming up. A beautiful leg run by Peter Wintermute of Lyons. Although the field is starting to close on him a little bit as he'll make the final exchange.
A beautiful exchange, and look at him fly.
Eric Espinoza is out first. David Walters of York is running the anchor leg for the Dukes, and he's got second place. It's Lyons, York, Crystal Lake Central, and Wheaton North. And making up some ground and making up quickly for Wheaton North is their anchor runner, Nate Cartwright.
East Moline United making a move. It's Lyons.
Lyons all alone, well out in front, a pack of 3.
This is Espinoza's race to win or lose.
And Espinoza, one of the few juniors we see running the anchor legs. Very compact for a runner running a race of this distance. Great battle going on for second place. You see the pack of 3 on the left side of the screen. There's your leader, Lyons Township, Eric Espinoza carrying the baton as he comes across the gun lap. Lyons appears to have an insurmountable lead at this point, but with the way this pack behind is moving.
The pack behind, Jimmy, look at them. They're closing the gap.
If Espinoza runs into any kind of problems, they might be able to make it up, but now about 250 meters to go in the race. What a beautiful leg of the race run by David Walters of York, but he has not been able to lose his two compatriots, Ryan McKenzie of Crystal Lake Central, nor Nate Cartwright of Wheaton North. Ryan McKenzie has now lifted Crystal Lake Central into second place, and he's making a bid for the lead. McKenzie and Espinoza. Is there going to be enough time for McKenzie in Crystal Lake Central? It's starting to look like he's running out of gas. Lyons Township is going to hang on. They will finish first. It's Crystal Lake Central second. York finishes third. Wheaton North comes in fourth. So the Lions gave their anchor man a big lead to work with, and he did exactly what his job was, make sure he hung on to the lead.
And he barely hung on to the lead.
The unofficial time, 7:44.5. When we come back after this timeout, it will be time for the 400-meter relay. Back at O'Brien Stadium, time now for the 4x100-meter relay. Here's a look at the lane assignments. The best times in the prelims yesterday, Peoria Heights and Fulton, 44.7. They are, as always, in the middle of the track, lanes 4 and 5. Kenny?
Also, don't forget lane 3, Maple Park. They've had a pretty good weekend down here. Your fastest teams in the prelim, they always get the middle of the track.
And the exchanges are critical in this short of a relay race. Nerve-wracking time for the sprinters now until the gun goes up.
Because you do not want to false start.
And the thing the lead men try to do is to try and make up as much of the stagger as possible, especially those in the middle of the track. And in lane 6, Rushville is off to a great start. They have already made up the stagger on lane 7.
Still holding on is Rushville. There's Rushville again.
Rushville appears to be out in front at this point, but you really can't tell until the entire stagger is made up and they give off for the final exchange. Rushville leading. Zach Royer is the anchor man for Rushville, and he has a big lead to work with coming down the front straightaway.
Beautiful form. It was a perfect exchange.
And it will be Zach Royer of Rushville carrying the baton across the finish line. Rushville wins the Class A title in the 4x100 relay. Unofficial time, 43.8. That's flying.
That was outstanding. The exchanges were beautiful. Zach Royer, just a sophomore, he took the exchange, had a perfect form. He really picked him up and laid him down. Watch the exchange as we come around the turn.
But look at how much of the stagger that Rushville had made up by that point, Kenny.
Yeah, they really made up the stagger. But I like the exchange. He didn't look back. He went with the field, put his hand back. Once he had the baton in his hand, it was just, hey, pick him up, lay him down. Beautiful by Rushville.
Let's give a lot of credit to Clint Hillier, who ran the initial leg for Rushville and gave his team a big lead to work with. Within the first 75 meters, he had made up the stagger on lane 7 right next to him, the team from Knoxville. Let's take a look at the field for the AA 4x100-meter relay. And this one could be really great. Leo, Wheaton Warrenville, Southeast St. Louis Senior, and Springfield Southeast, all posting outstanding times in yesterday's prelims.
And, of course, Wheaton, you have Jamar Collins, who won the 100 yesterday. Leo, of course, has an outstanding track program as well. East St. Louis Senior, also a great track program. This really should be an outstanding 400 relay.
The runners are in the blocks for the 4x100-meter relay for the Class AA schools. Jamar Collins of Wheaton Warrenville South, keep an eye on him. He is in lane 4. He will lead off for the Tigers. An explosive runner who is also hoping for individual glory here today. Collins off to a pretty good start for Wheaton Warrenville South, and look at him move.
Oh, is he moving?
Jamar Collins looking and making up the stagger. East St. Louis Lincoln doing a good job as well. Running the second leg for Wheaton Warrenville South is Corey Johnson. Collins and Johnson, both running backs in the state championship 6A football team this fall. East St. Louis Senior, though, with the lead as we go for the final handoff. Running the anchor leg for East St. Louis Senior is Cortez Perry. And in lane 3, Chicago Leo down and out. They've been disqualified.
They've been disqualified.
In lane 5, East St. Louis Senior first, Wheaton Warrenville South in lane 4. They finished second, and what a disappointment for Chicago Leo. They are expected to contend and maybe defend their Class AA title, but they will not get any points out of this relay.
East St. Louis Senior. Man, what a beautiful exchange. I don't know if we could pick up the disqualification. What a disappointment for Chicago Leo. Let's see if we can pick up the disqualification. Lane 3, oh, he stumbled.
He reached back for the baton and
stumbled.
Courtney Cook looking for the baton to go into his hand, and as he reached back, lost his footing. And now you watch the final 100 meters of the race. Is Cortez Perry.
Cortez Perry just flying, beautiful form, and just holds on.
Jeremy Byer trying to make up any ground he could, but what a beautiful anchor leg run by Cortez Perry as East St. Louis Senior wins the 4x100-meter relay. And next up on the docket, the 3,200-meter run for Class A. And in this race, we mentioned earlier in the sprints that you will see the better runners in the middle of the field. In the distance events, your better runners are on the pole. Peter Muller, the best time in the prelims yesterday, 9:55. Aaron Hart had the second best time in the prelims. John Jameson was third, and Nathan Montgomery of Havana, 10:02 in the prelim. The difference of 7 seconds between Peter Muller and Montgomery for the top times in the prelims yesterday. 3,200-meter run, 8 times around the track. And our standings after 4 events in the Class A boys 1996 track and field championship. Carlinville, 16 points, and Maple Park Canelan, Kenny, 2 of the teams we expected to be right there.
I don't think any surprises. Newton coming in with 14.
But this right now would appear to be a race that's really not going to heavily affect the outcome of the state championship because the main contenders don't have representation in this race. But this is one of the more mentally taxing events there is. 8 times around the track, and the scenery is the same all 8 times around. So it gets a little tough. Remember, Peter Muller of University High in Chicago is on the pole. He's on the inside of lane 1. And the key thing in this race is to get to the pole and avoid the traffic. Let's see how Muller does getting to the back straightaway and see if he can avoid traffic. And it looks like he'll do a pretty good job of it as the other runners start to break in. Muller's going to be in about second place and has room to run, and that's the key thing.
There's your 1, 2, 3 very early 4 events in Class A.
You don't want to take the lead right away.
The last thing you want to do is
not 3,200 meters.
No.
Get right behind the leader, follow his pace. Then when you know it's time to go, you can pass him. But if you're in the lead right now, you're always wondering who's behind you. So one thing I would not want to do, as we discussed earlier, Jimmy, would be taking the lead.
The main thing you don't want to do either, Kenny, is you don't want to get boxed in. And notice where Muller is right now. He's sitting in 4th, but he's running right down the stripe between lane 1 and 2. That's a good spot.
That's a perfect spot.
In front of him. He's not going to get boxed in from there. It's just a really good spot to be because it's a long way to go. 7 laps to go in the race. 1 lap gone in the Class A 3,200-meter run. Here is a look at the leaders after 1 lap. One lap now remaining in the 3,200 meters in the Class A race, and leading the way, Peter Muller of U-High from Chicago. Running second is Nathan Montgomery of Havana. Running third from Quigley Prep in Chicago is Willie Bolaños, but it's going to be Peter Muller, barring anything unforeseen, Kenny.
Yeah, I don't think anybody can beat Peter Muller. He'll run a great time, a lot better than yesterday. All he wanted to do was obvious, was qualify. this time today would be much better than his qualifying time yesterday of 9:55.
Right now he's coming up on 8:55, and he's got 200 meters left to go in the race.
Look at the distance.
And he's still pulling away, just running beautifully at this point with 150 meters to go. That's about as good as it gets right there.
Yeah, he can walk in now.
State record 9:10.86. He's well past that right now, but he's on his way to a state championship. And Kenny mentioned 9:55 yesterday. He's going to better that today by around 20 seconds as he crosses the finish line at an unofficial time of 9:25.6. Coming in second will be Nathan Montgomery of Havana. Willie Bolaños of Quigley Prep is going to come in third, and John Lucahouse, one of the best cross-country runners in the state from Normal University High, is going to finish the race fourth. But your champion for 1996, Peter Muller of University High in Chicago, what a beautiful race he ran.
Well, I tell you, from start to finish, he was in control.
Time now for the 3,200 meter run in Class AA, and our first look at Marius Bakken of York. Remember today, he will attempt to do something that has never been done in this track meet. That is win the 3,200, the 1,600, and the 800 meter run. It all starts right here. He's got some tough competition in here. Bakken had a time that was much better yesterday than many of the other qualifying times, but behind Bakken, a bunch of people who can make a move and let themselves be known if Bakken should falter at all. And there is a look at Marius Bakken, transfer student, I shouldn't say transfer student, exchange student from Norway, trying to win 3 events here at the state championships. Now, there's more than this at stake than just Marius Bakken in this race for York. Also in this race for York is John Hanley. He had the 4th best time in the prelims yesterday. So, for York, this could be their first big point total haul in this meet. You see Hanley now on the left of your screen.
Did you notice Bakken has a watch on, and he was looking at his watch so he can set his own pace and know his time?
Because if Bakken is indeed going to do a triple, the object here is not to run a great time. The object here is simply to win.
Just to win it and save some energy.
His time yesterday in the prelims was a full 11 seconds better than anybody else in this field. But as you saw in the Class A race, the times run yesterday in the preliminaries can be a little bit deceiving because when you run a distance prelim, all you're concerned about is qualifying. And right now, Bakken's settling into the middle of the pack on the inside. And once again, the lead at this point of the race is not that big of a deal, although Jesse Barnes of Batavia right now holding the lead, and everybody's certainly content just to settle in the pace right behind him, and Bakken has moved up all the way to the middle of the pack. After 1 lap, your leaders are from Naperville North, Ted Higgins, and from Batavia, Jesse Barnes. Now with 1 lap to go, Marius Bakken of York, he's got this thing in the bag, Kenny. He's leading this race by nearly 100 meters with 1 lap to go. 7 minutes, 55 seconds into the race.
This isn't even funny. He has such a commanding lead.
But let's pick up a little bit of the other story here. Bakken on his way to picking up 10 points for York. But the other runner in the race for York is John Hanley. And York is going to need some other points out of this race if they are going to want to contend for a state title.
And you can hear the York crowd hollering Hanley, trying to cheer him on so they can pick up a couple of points.
And he's got a chance. He's going to have to make up some ground.
You know Bakken will win this race. Now the key to me for Bakken is not to use up too much energy because he has 2 other events to run today.
Now,
so just win it and don't use up all your energy.
And here's the thing, Kenny. He ran 9:14 in the sectional as the best qualifying time. And the way he's going right now, he's going to hit right on about that. Clock about to cross 9 minutes. Marius Bakken has just destroyed the field.
Yeah, just take his time now. He should just cruise. He'll beat that 9:14.
So Marius Bakken wins the 3,200 meter run. good race for second going on. Third place in this race is going to go to Glenbard North's David Zabel. And as for York maybe getting some other points out of this race, it's not going to happen. So Marius Bakken, he finishes first, picks up the big points for York. He has the first race on his way to trying to do something no one else has done in the state championship track meet. Now back to the Class A half of the track meet, the 110-meter high hurdles. Yesterday, Robert Neal and Phil Sekenga ran in the same semifinal heat right next to each other. They will be next to each other again. Neal in lane 3 from Harrisburg, Sekenga from Timothy Christian, and Dirk Bartolozzi from Auburn. They're in the middle of the track. They are the 3 people to watch.
Watch Sekenga.
14.83 for Sekenga yesterday in the semifinals.
He's in lane 4.
In lane 4 in red, and Neal just to his left in the purple shorts from Harrisburg in lane 3. Sekenga breaks out first and gets to the hurdles first. Looked like he misstepped going over the first set of hurdles. And out in lane 7 of the track, Terrence Roberts of Luther South got out to a good jump. But now making up the gap is Sekenga, and Sekenga will carry the field on his way to winning a state title. Wow.
Your timing has to be perfect. It looked like he misstepped on that first hurdle, but he made it up.
Yeah, Sekenga got off to a great start. Watch him pop out of the blocks. Red shirt at the top of the screen, but did he misstep going to the first hurdle, Kenny?
Was it the first one?
Caught it with his back leg.
Back leg, but watch the way he makes up for it. But watch lane 7. They really put a lot of pressure on Sekenga, boy, but he's really in tune right here. Perfect timing. You know, I've done this before. Your timing has to be perfect. He wins easily.
One misstep anywhere along the track could cost you the race. So, Phil Sekenga, the junior from Timothy Christian and Elmhurst, he's the state champion in the Class A 110-meter high hurdles. Now, for the double A 110-meter high hurdles, and this one ought to be a barn burner. All the times, very, very close in the prelims. The man to watch in lane 5, Rodney Session of East St. Louis Senior. He's the defending champ in this race. But also keep an eye on Corey Johnson of Wheaton Warrenville South. They both ran 14-1s in the sectionals. The best time in the sectionals belongs to the runner in lane 7, Craig Rawl of Springfield Southeast. He was 13-7 in the sectionals, but once again, Session had the best time yesterday in the semis. Runners in the blocks for the 110-meter high hurdles for Class AA. And Corey Johnson of Wheaton Warrenville South will be trying to gun down Rodney Session. He is also trying to cancel out the 10 points earned by Marius Bakken of York. Remember, York and Wheaton Warrenville South among the teams favored for the Class AA title. East St. Louis Senior, they're in the fight as well. Session a little slow out of the blocks, but makes it up very quickly, getting to the first hurdle. Session is trying to run down Pierre Lineback of Hoffman Estates, who has the lead. Session and Lineback, they'll sprint for the line. Session, what a great job of making up distance. He was way behind after a bad start, and he ends up winning the state title.
That, to me, is the performance of the day. What a come from behind by Rodney Session.
Wow.
He was the favorite to win this.
He was left in the blocks, Kenny.
Boy, what a slow start. I don't know why he started so slowly. He really got out of the blocks very slow. Linebacker from Hoffman Estates really had a good lead, but look at Session.
And he's knocking over
hurdles, but look at the form. Then he picks it up right here. He'll pick it up, turn on the afterburners, and lean just makes it.
Lineback hit one hurdle on his way down the track, and that opened the door for Rodney Session to defend his state title in the Class AA 110-meter high hurdles in an unofficial time of 14:15. Next up, the Class A 100-meter dash. Blue Beach Grays of Cairo in 1990, the state record, 10.32. And that is our first look in the running events, in the individual running events, I should say, at Babatunde Ridley of Carlinville. Already won one event so far today. Justin Bryant had the second best time in the semifinals at 11.34. They are in the blocks for the 100-meter dash, Class A. Keep an eye on lane 4. Babatunde Ridley has already won the long jump in this state track meet.
I think he's the best athlete in this arena today.
Justin Bryant of Knoxville, right next to him in lane 5. Ridley comes flying out of the blocks and takes the lead right away. Babatunde Ridley has a big lead halfway down the track. He destroys the field in the 100-meter dash, and he wins his second state championship of the day.
10.48.
The state record, 10.32 in Class A. So Ridley, not a state record, but a wonderful performance from start to finish. Kenny, what a great start. He led this thing wire to wire.
Look at the great start. He really came out of the blocks quickly. And look at this. It was never a race. Perfect form. Pick him up, lay him down. He is just on cruise control.
Look how low he was coming out of the blocks, and he stayed low until about 20 meters into the race, then stood up and just took apart the rest of the field. Time now for the Class AA 100-meter dash, and another race that ought to be very interesting. Anthony Mormon of Lake Park, 10.3 in the sectionals. Philandus Mincher is in lane 2. He was 10.2 in the sectionals, as was Lionel Grandison of Thornridge on the outside, but the best time in the semifinals, Jamar Collins. We saw him earlier in one of the relay races. He's from Wheaton Warrenville South. He's lined up right in the middle of the track in lane 5. The state record in this event held by Steve Thomas of Kenwood, 10.37, 10 years ago in 1986. And they are now on the track for the 100-meter dash. There is Jamar Collins.
Watch Jamar Collins. If he can get a good start, he should win this race. He ran 10.85 yesterday.
The thing to keep in mind in the team fight here, too, is that East St. Louis Senior has 2 runners in this final. Cortez Perry in lane 3, Detar Anderson in lane 8. So good showings by those two could mean a big point total in this race for the Flyers. Collins a little slow breaking off at the start. He's got some ground to make up. That's Anthony Mormon of Lake Park out in front of everybody, and it's going to be Mormon winning the 100-meter dash, and the East St. Louis runners will both pick up points. So from the team standpoint, a big race for East St. Louis Senior, but Anthony Mormon, the sophomore from Lake Park and Roselle, he's your Class AA champion. What a great race, Kenny.
He ran a very good race at a 10.80. He got out of the blocks well. Watch Collins. He did not get out of the blocks. Really slow coming out of lane 5. Anthony Mormon comes out, comes flying. Mormon. Now watch Mormon at the finish line. Instead of leaning, he'll put his hands out. He knows he has this one wrapped up. Instead of leaning over, he just put his hands out. Then he leaned and a nice little dance.
You know, what a thing to do as a sophomore at the state track meet is win yourself a state title and have 2 more years to come back and defend your championship. Coming up next, we'll go back to the distance races. In Class A, it's the 800-meter run. Jason Abbott and Jamie Nelson had the best times in the preliminaries. 158.34 for Abbott from Kewanee and 158.52 for Jamie Nelson from Monmouth High School. Total of 12 runners in this final. The state record held by Rob Carter of Clinton, set back in 1988, 153.04. 12 finalists on the track for the most misnamed event in the entire track meet, the 800-meter run. It is an 800-meter dash, folks. And the favorite in the race, Jason Abbott, had the best time in the prelims yesterday. He's from Kewanee High School. This is a 2-lap around the track sprint.
Jason ran 1:58.34.
You have got to be strong and you have got to be fast to run this event. And once again, the distance races, the first thing to do is concentrate on getting to the pole. The runners must stay within their lane assignments until they get to the cones, which you are seeing them pass right now, and now they can break into the first lane. And Abbott holds his position on the pole. He'll be passed on the outside, but in pretty good shape is Abbott right now running third. Halfway through the first of 2 laps.
Abbott looks pretty strong here coming around this turn.
Sitting in third place at the moment. And as they make their way down the front straightaway. The lead currently being held by Kevin Hallmark of Havana, and he has opened up what is right now a sizable lead over Chris Swilling of Newton. Kevin Hallmark looks, at least for the moment, to have decided to try and simply outrun the field.
I don't like his arm movement, Jimmy. See, the second place behind him seems to me he has better form.
And you see the field start to reel Kevin Hallmark in. 200 meters to go. You see the pace really drop off all of a sudden. Now here is where the strength kicks in. It's all arm movement. Keep the arms pumping. If you can keep your arms pumping, that will bring your legs up and drive you through to the finish. Leading as we head down the front straightaway is Jamie Nelson of Monmouth.
Can he hold on? I think he will.
Nelson of Monmouth is going to finish first. J.J. Simpson of Normal U High finishes second. And coming in third is Kevin Hallmark of Havana. Jamie Nelson just sat back and waited for the field to come back to him. And then, as you see in the 800, was simply stronger than everybody else, kept the arms moving, drove through to the finish. Because when you get to this point of this race, Ken, you've got nothing left.
You have nothing left, so you have to have a little bit of strength, great arm movement. Notice when we said before, when he overtook the other guy, look at the distance there. I like
Kenny, look at the difference in the arm movement.
Yes, exactly.
Pumping up and down in first and swinging side to side in second.
That's an easy win for Nelson.
Nelson in an unofficial time of 1:57.6. Now it is time once again to take a look at Marius Bakken of York. It's time for the AA 800-meter run. Bakken, as you can see by the lane assignment, did not have the best time of the preliminaries, but as we pointed out throughout the day, sometimes that can be a little deceiving. Kyle Leonard of Lincoln Way in New Lenox with the best preliminary time of 1:54.03. But we should point out that in the sectionals, Bakken ran a 1:51.9. The state record in this event, Dave Ayub of Peoria, back in 1977, ran 1:48.9. Marius Bakken already has one state championship, won so far today, the 3,200-meter run. Now he is up there for the 800-meter run. The current standings in the AA quest for the championship, Sterling with 13 points, Lyons in second, and Thornton in third. But as you can tell by the numbers, it is early. A lot of people to be heard from before this is over with. And we now start to close in on Marius Bakken. He's trying to do a couple of very difficult things today. Number one, he's trying to become the first person ever in 102 years to win the 800, 1600, and 3200. And only 7 people all time have ever won the 1600 and the 3200 by themselves. This would be 2 of 3 if Bakken can get it.
He had to stay in his lane until he passes the cone.
And in the 3200, Kenny, we saw him settle back into the middle of the pack in the early part of the race, but you cannot do that in the 800. The race is simply too short.
But he's so strong.
In this race, the danger of getting boxed in early and being unable to recover is acute. You have to be very aware of the traffic around you. Because for one thing, at this level, the race does not separate out that much, and sometimes you just can't get that much breathing room.
Well, he's about 5th right now.
Coming around after the first 300 meters of the race. And leading the race is Kyle Leonard. Marius Bakken right now is running 3rd, is making his move, trying to move up into 2nd place. Kyle Leonard of Lincoln Way, trying to put as much distance as he can between himself and Bakken. And Leonard and Bakken are almost in a flat-out sprint right now as they begin to pull away from the field. Bakken and Leonard down the back stretch, but look at Bakken reel him in.
Bakken seems to be in so much better control, Jimmy.
But Leonard is staying with him stride for stride right now. A huge contingent here wearing green from Elmhurst, trying to cheer Marius Bakken on. But right now it's Kyle Leonard, the senior from Lincoln Way, holding off Bakken as they come off the final turn. 100 meters to go. Bakken trying to slingshot Leonard on the outside.
Oh, look at Leonard
and
open
Leonard
up.
with a kick. He is going to hold off Bakken, and now Bakken has to be concerned about holding on to 2nd place. Leonard will finish 1st. Bakken ends up in 2nd place. So there will be no triple today for Marius Bakken, and what a gutsy job and a brilliant performance by Kyle Leonard.
152.4.
Marius Bakken going to congratulate the athlete who vanquished him in this race, and Kyle Leonard. Just what a great job of holding off Bakken all the way. After they passed the gun and went into the final lap, Leonard turned down the jets, pulled Bakken away from the pack. And then as they came around that final turn, look at Bakken tried to make his move there.
He looks like he's in control. As you can see, Leonard's arms are really going kind of wildly, but he just hung on, especially when they came out of the turn.
The key was going into that back turn, Kenny, Leonard was able to stay in 1st place, so he made Bakken run a little bit farther going around the curve, made Bakken use up a little bit more energy, take a few more steps, and then just turned it on the final 75 meters.
Yeah, he really turns it on here for the big win.
Well, Kyle Leonard will step up to graduation next week as a state champion. Kyle Leonard, the champion in the 800-meter run in Class AA. When we come back after this timeout, we'll have another 800-meter run, but it'll be a little quicker because there will be 4 guys running it for each team. The broadcast rights for the boys Illinois High School Track and Field Championships were granted to Sports Channel by the Illinois High School Association. Any reproduction or rebroadcast of this event without the written consent of Sports Channel or the IHSA is prohibited. On the track, the Class A 800-meter relay. There is a look at the combatants. Fulton in lane 4, Macomb in lane 5. They were the 2 teams with the best times in the prelims yesterday. Brian Faulkner leading off for Fulton and leading off for Macomb, John Stovall. It's one of those races, Kenny, that is really very difficult to judge until about the 2nd exchange.
So far, all the exchanges have been perfect.
Now coming down first is Metropolis in lane 9, but remember, they've got the biggest amount of stagger than anybody. So even though it may look like they're in first, keep an eye on who makes their exchange first. Actually, it looks like everybody in the middle of the track is about dead even.
Yeah, Fulton really had a really good exchange. They're in perfect position in lane 4.
In lane 5, Macomb looks to be in pretty good shape as well. Running leg number 3 for Macomb is 10 Anderson. He will hand off to Brandon Murphy for the final leg of the race. And Murphy gets the baton first from everybody, so it's Macomb in the lead as they come around the final turn.
Well, we're going to have a race here. As they come down.
Brandon Murphy of Macomb holding steady in the middle of the track. Can he hang on to the lead? Murphy and Macomb, they will barely hang on at the wire. In lane 2 was Luther South right in there in the fight for 2nd.
Luther South just a half a second away. Macomb did a great job holding on.
Time 130.65 unofficial. It's a very good time. State record 128.17.
So look at Luther South in the 2nd lane, but Macomb just barely leans in. Barely. good lean.
And
that's very important, too, that lean. A lot of people don't realize how important the lean is. You saw right there with McComb with that lean, Pat Crawford with the lean and the win.
And in lane 4, Fulton came in third in the 800-meter relay. The current standings in Class A, Carlinville, one of the early favorites. Big advantage right now of 5 points. One of the other favorites, Maple Park Canelan, they're in second right now with 22 points. That is through 9 events. Time now for the 800-meter relay for Class AA. State record, East St. Louis senior back in 1975, 125.7. Yesterday, the best time in the prelims, Wheaton Warrenville South. They'll be in lane 5, 127.28. Lake Park with Anthony Mormon, who we saw win the 100-meter dash just a little while ago. They will be in lane 4. Mormon is going to be running the third leg of that relay. For Wheaton Warrenville South, a bunch of running backs. Matt Rogers, Corey Johnson, Daniel Newsom, and Jeremy Byer. In the sectionals, Lake Park had the best time, 127.3. But Wheaton Warrenville South bettered that in the prelims yesterday. Roselle Lake Park in lane 4, Wheaton Warrenville South lane 5, and Springfield Southeast in lane 6.
Wheaton Warrenville South, a lot of football players.
Yes, it's all running backs on this relay team. They know about winning state titles. Once again, they were the 6A football champions last November. And Matt Rogers of Wheaton Warrenville South has just eaten up the stagger on the man in the next lane. Wheaton Warrenville South very close to making the first handoff. Running now for Wheaton Warrenville South in lane 5 is Corey Johnson. And he is also tearing up the track.
He is moving.
Johnson will now hand off to Daniel Newsom. In lane 4, Anthony Mormon will now have the baton. He won the 100-meter dash earlier today.
And look at the ground he's making up.
He is absolutely flying.
I'm surprised he's not running the anchor leg, but maybe they want to get the lead. Look at Lake Park. Mormon is really picking up the ground. Need a good exchange.
Final handoff upcoming. It appears to be a two-team race between Lake Park and Wheaton Warrenville South. Anthony Donzelli running the anchor for Lake Park, but Jeremy Byer in the middle of the track for Wheaton Warrenville South is going to hold on and give the Tigers the state championship in the 800-meter relay. Lake Park needed one more, Anthony Mormon.
Yeah, Mormon made up a lot of ground. I think I may have put Mormon on my anchor, the anchor leg. But I'm not the coach, so we don't know about the exchanges. I'm sure they know what they're doing. Boy, but Mormon really closed the ground, but Wheaton Warrenville South, they hold on. They were in lane 5, perfect position right in the middle. Beautiful race.
And for the Wheaton Warrenville South Tigers in this relay team, Matt Rogers, Corey Johnson, Daniel Newsom, and Jeremy Byer, all seniors. So how is that for a way to go out as a senior? You win a state football title in the fall, and you come back in the spring, and you win at least an individual and event title in the Class AA track meet, and who knows, the way Wheaton Warrenville South is going in this one, they may still end up as team champions of Class AA in track before the day is over. Coming up next, the 400-meter dash for Class A. Chris Jones of Lisle is trying to win this event for the 4th year in a row. He will be in lane 4. He had the best time yesterday in the preliminaries at 49.53. His main competition is going to come right next to him in lane 5. Jason Reynolds from Byron, 49.59 in the prelims. The state record in Class A held by Mark Claypool of Maple Park back in 1977, ran 47.2. 400-meter dash in Class A, and our first look on the track at Chris Jones of Lisle in lane 4. He'll be easy to spot. He's the man in tights. Didn't Mel Brooks make a movie about that once?
There he is.
This guy can run. He will also be appearing in the final of the 200 meters a little bit later on. He's got, look at those arms on him.
Good legs also.
Look at the build. Jones in the middle of the track, 49.53 once again in the prelims. Jason Reynolds of Byron just up ahead of his main competition. So Jones has a good look right at Reynolds as he comes out of the blocks. His coach says of Jones that he's a future Olympian. One time around for the 400 meters. Jones trying to reel in Reynolds and doing it as they come around the first turn and head to the back straightaway. Jones has already made up 2 staggers and he's working on a third.
Well, he'll really turn it on once they get around this turn. He's in control.
Chris Jones from Lyle Senior High School is making this look easy.
This is easy.
Chris Jones looks around, makes sure he's got plenty of room and time. His time is going really good, too. 48.6 for Chris Jones. The event that he has made his own here at the state championships, the 400-meter dash, yet another state title.
Boy, was there ever any doubt? Coming around the final turn, look, no one around Chris Jones. He has a big lead, beautiful form in the tights, maybe to protect from hamstring and muscle pulls, boy, but he just cruised. And this is smart because he will be in a 200 meter, so there's no need to waste energy. He knew he had this race won, just win it, save some energy for the 200 meter.
Let's take it back to the turn one more time, Kenny, and take a very close look at where Chris Jones is running in his lane, because you'll see some of the other runners starting to drift toward the middle of the lane. But Jones is in such control of what he's doing. He is still running to the inside of his lane,
all the way,
nearly on the white line. You'll be able to see it, especially when the curve comes around and he'll almost be running straight at you coming out of the curve.
You can see right here.
Right, look where he is in the lane. He's right on the line.
But he does not step out of his lane.
That is controlled running. And you see the other runners running toward the middle of their lanes?
Yes.
Look at Jones right on the left edge of the lane. That's beautiful. Chris Jones, your Class A champion in the 400-meter dash. Once again, time now for the AA version of the 400-meter dash. And we'll get one more look at Jamar Collins of Wheaton Warrenville South. He'll be running in lane 4, 46.2 in the sectionals. That is very close. 0.3 of a second to the state record held by Harold Leonard of Mount Carmel, set back in 1985. The best time of anyone yesterday in the prelims was by Tyrone Jones of Centralia. He ran 48.32. Jamar Collins, the odds-on favorite in this race. One thing to keep an eye on as well is might he be able to set a state record. 46.2 in the sectionals. The state record 46.51. But remember, he's been in a few races earlier today.
Yes.
Getting late in the day, still hot.
Don't forget Tyrone Jones also in lane 5.
The wind is kind of lolling about. It is coming from your left to your right as you're looking at the track right now.
I don't think the wind will be that big a factor. It's not really blowing hard.
When you're going around, it helps you as much as it hurts you. Somewhat odd in a 400-meter race that Kevin Lorenzo in lane 7 opts not to use starting blocks.
I was just about to say that.
You don't see that very much anymore. That's Lorenzo in the foreground of your screen. Collins with a much better start in this race than he had in the 100-meter dash, and has already made it the stagger, and the man to his right, and Jamar Collins is blasting through the field.
He is really picking up some ground.
Collins moves on to the back straight. If he catches the two runners on the outside, which he's about to do, there's no doubt about who has the lead in this one. 46.51 is the state record. Jamar Collins is way out in front, and he hasn't even turned down to the front straightaway yet. The crowd stands to watch Jamar Collins come down the front straightaway. He looks clean, he looks strong.
He'll be close to a record.
Collins starting to run out of a little gas as he comes down the straight. He will not get the state record, but he will get the state title. The unofficial time for Jamar Collins, 47.69, but he is a state champion in the 400-meter dash. The old bear everybody talks about, Kenny got him about 75 meters out, or he might have had the state record.
Well, remember, he also participated in the 100-meter earlier today, so he had to be a little tired coming around that stretch.
Jamar Collins absolutely ate everybody up on that back stretch.
On the back stretch now, you can see he's just passing everyone right here.
He's running so easy there, too. That's incredible.
Yeah, he's on cruise control, really, and I think the key was he got off to a pretty good start. In the 100-meter dash, he stood straight up, coming out of the blocks. He could never recover. Here, there was never any question about Collins. Smooth as silk.
That is beautiful running right there. Look at how everybody else, the arms are starting to swing. They're having to pump the arms, and Collins still driving. Right about here is when he started to feel it a little bit, and he lost the opportunity for a state record. But what a beautiful race by Collins.
You can see he's slowing down, but he gets across the line at 47.69, almost a state record.
We'll be back with more from Charleston in just a little bit. Coming up next, the 300-meter intermediate hurdles. Back at O'Brien Stadium, Jim Blaney along with Kenny McReynolds, getting ready for the 300-meter intermediate hurdles for Class A. Chris Tren with the state record, Jacob Hunt, Sherman Armstrong with the two best times in the preliminaries. Armstrong led the way, 38.68. He will be running in lane 5. He's from Luther South in Chicago.
This is a very, very difficult race.
And the problem with the starts, they'll let the guys come out of the blocks and stretch their legs for a moment. That is the worst thing that can happen when you're down in those blocks and you're ready to go, and there's a timing problem or.
Yeah, it's one thing for a false start, but then when you have a timing problem, because you're anticipating the gun anyway.
Many times it'll throw off your timing. We should mention we have not seen a false start or anything even close to it so far in this meet. So the people have been disciplined, and the starter has been disciplined as well. You have to have a good starter to have a good track meet.
Watch Sherman Armstrong in lane 5.
He is in the entire red uniform right in the middle of the track. And it looks to be that Armstrong and Roy Clapp got to the hurdles first out of anybody. Clapp hit the second hurdle. And this is where you can run into a problem this race. The fatigue starts to come up. The hurdles start to get a little harder to reach, because what you want to do is you want to keep the steps between each hurdle the same.
The same, exactly.
And it's Armstrong with the lead as they head down the front straightaway. Roy Clapp of Oakland right with them for the moment. And look at Armstrong just driving. He's got one more hurdle to go. And it is indeed going to be Sherman Armstrong from Luther South finishing first. Roy Clapp of Oakland, a sophomore, finishing second. But an individual title for Luther South and Sherman Armstrong. Unofficial time, 38.10. Not too bad, right about a half a second off the state record. Let's take a look at the final stretch, Kenny, and this is
where you get tired. You start to get tired right here, and you can see Armstrong right in the middle of your screen get over that hurdle cleanly, too. He didn't touch any hurdles. Coming right up here, keeps his stride. You want the timing to be exactly the same. Once he got past that last hurdle, he knew he had this race won.
Third place in the race will go to Robert Neal of Harrisburg with the champion, Sherman Armstrong, a junior who would hope to be right back in this spot next year to defend his state title. Now it's time for the 300-meter intermediate hurdles for Class AA. Matt Rogers of Wheaton Warrenville South at 37.68 yesterday had the best time in the preliminaries. Chris Clopton of TF South, he was 38.88. And one of the sidebars to this race is the duel going on in lanes 5 and 6. Rogers will be in lane 5. Rodney Session will be in lane 6 from East St. Louis Senior. Those two teams right now are leading the fight for the team title. So a very interesting battle coming up in the 300-meter hurdles. So here we go. Not just an individual title on the line in this race, but maybe the upper hand in the team championship as well. In lane 6, that is Rodney Session. He already won the 110-meter high hurdles. And on the right of your screen, Matt Rogers from Wheaton Warrenville South, 37.9 in the sectionals. So he had the best time in the sectionals. He had the best time in the prelims.
Down on the infield.
False start, the first one of the day. And the groan comes because now everybody wants to know which lane the false start came from. Let's take a look at the standings in Class AA while we have a moment. East St. Louis Senior with 28 points, York with 27, but we should point out that Jamar Collins' victory in the 400-meter dash is not figured into that, so it's a lot closer than that looks at the moment.
And that false start was on lane 7, Barry Somerville of St. Charles.
And they're using NCAA rules, and that is one false start and you are gone. And what a bitter disappointment for Barry Somerville. He had a 39.09, which was the 4th best time in the prelims, and he certainly had a chance at figuring in this race. There is no margin for error when you're using NCAA rules, and that is one of the reasons why you don't see very many false starts. Many meets you can take a false start, and sometimes you'll see a runner take a false start if he feels he's been in the blocks too long. It's one of the reasons why in these types of rules, one and you're gone, because it eliminates a lot of shenanigans. Once again to reset, Rogers in 5, Session in 6. Clean start this time. Rogers out of the blocks very well. Already has made up some ground on Session, but it appears that out of the two, Rogers may be a little bit better sprinter, but Sessions may be better at handling the hurdles, but that's not the way it's working out so far, is Rogers has already passed Session. Matt Rogers making the turn. Right alongside him is Charles Clopton of TF South. And in lane 1, Pierre Lineback of Hoffman Estates. Remember, he had the lead in the 110-meter high hurdles, but was caught near the end. It is going to be Matt Rogers. Maybe Session got him at the tape. We'll have to take a look.
I think the lean.
Sessions had his feet and got the lean at the tape, but we'll have to check and see if he indeed did clip Rogers at the wire. And remember, that's big in the quest for the team title. A difference of 2 points between first and second, and that could be very huge. 37.46 unofficially, and that is just 4/10 off the state record held by John Strickland of Glenbard South, set back in 1990.
Let's see if we can pick it up.
At the final 75 meters, Kenny.
Okay, here we go. You see Rogers. Then Session will come out of nowhere. Session really picking him up, laying him down. See that last hurdle? Look at Session just fly across that last hurdle. It is... Ooh.
You know what? If we can get one more look at that, it appeared that Rogers stepped out of his lane.
That's close. That last hurdle, Session just flew over that hurdle and never broke stride.
Let's take one more look at it. Watch Rogers as he goes over the final hurdle and loses his footing. Watch where his feet start to land.
he out?
There he loses his balance. Stayed in there. Watch the next plant of his right foot. Well, the left was out there. Watch where his right foot goes. Watch the right foot here.
He's out of his lane. Session with the lean.
Boy, that's.
But Rogers was out of his lane.
We'll have to wait and hear how the officials score that one exactly. But they appear Session celebrating as he believes he is the champion. And
well, the way he came over that last hurdle was incredible.
Disappointing finish for Matt Rogers. Okay, let's watch the whole race and how it unfolded, because especially in the back straightaway, Rogers was so clean and so efficient in the way he handled this race. And just Session with an unbelievable finish toward the end.
That last hurdle was unbelievable.
It's a fair start.
It was a good start.
Myers and Champagne.
Rogers really handled those hurdles well early. And you see Rogers with a nice lead, running smoothly.
Okay, now here comes, you'll see from the left side of your screen, Session start to come into view.
See, Rogers is in complete control, but look at Session when he gets over the final hurdle. That was close.
Very, very close. All right, now back to action on the track. The 1,600-meter run for Class A is underway. The best time in the prelims yesterday, Sean Sullivan of Kankakee McNamara, 4:27.09, and Matt McClelland of Rushville, 4:27.15. A total of 12 runners in the field for this final. 4 times around the track, and this is the closest thing you have to the mile. As they near, 1 lap gone. And the leader right now is Sean Sullivan of Kankakee McNamara, but right with him is Matt McClelland, 2 top times in the prelims from yesterday.
And just like any distance race, Jim, you don't want to take the lead too soon. Set your pace, save some energy.
McClelland decides to take the lead in the back straight and wants to see who might be willing to come with him. And McClelland looking well at ease in the early stages of this race. And McClelland not pulling away from anybody right now. Just one of those things where you just like to see how the race is going to go. You know where the main competition is going to come from. You just might want to see in the early going on who might be willing to take the pace from you. And if somebody comes up and passes you, as is happening right now, it's Robert Hanners, a freshman from Tuscola, who has decided to take the lead. Why not? Throw a little monkey wrench into the upperclassmen's plan.
And he's only a freshman. I'm sure he has to have some butterflies in his stomach. From Tuscola, which is a hop, skip, and a jump from Charleston here.
Robert Hanners yesterday in the prelims ran a 4:35.45 as a freshman. That's unbelievable. Of course, the state of Illinois has turned out some phenomenal distance runners in the past. Of course, Craig Virgin, who would be the best known and the most successful of all of them. Hanners has now lost the lead on the second curve.
Rushville back out in front.
And going back into the lead from Rushville is Matt McClelland.
Hanners, the freshman from Tuscola.
McClelland from Rushville is number 1. Hanners from Tuscola is number 2. And now moving up into the number 3 position is Eric Rushing, a senior from Riverton. And the number 4 position is TJ Zimmerman from Petersburg, Florida.
Now we're into the gun lap. We'll see what these guys are made of.
McClellan has obviously decided to start legging out the lead and see if anybody can come with him. Really, the story that's developing right now is Hanner's the freshman right now hanging in there for a number 3 spot. State record, Greg Hill of Freeburg, 4:16.8 back in 1981. They are well off that pace.
200-meter competitors should go to the 10.
Rushville still in the fight for a state title. It would be a big 10 points if McClellan can hang on and win this race. McClellan starting to come around the final turn, but right with him as they head down the straight is Eric Rushing of Riverton. Rushing trying to rush to the finish. Will he run out of time and distance? It appears he will. Matt McClellan, the senior from Rushville, claims the state championship in the 1,600-meter run. Unofficial time, 4:21.86. Just can't escape the Bulls. They just gave everybody the Bulls score here, Kenny.
Well, America's team.
All right, now that we've gotten off of basketball, back onto the IHSA Class AA track championship, the 1,600-meter run for the boys. Marius Bakken from York. He finished first in the 3,200-meter run. He finished second in the 800-meter run. There will not be a triple. However, only 7 times in 102 years has someone won both the 1,600 and the 3,200, or if you go back into the English measurement, the mile and the 2 mile. Bakken did not have the best time in the prelims. Ed Reigert from Downers Grove North had a 4:18.66. State record, Mark Dady of Stevenson, 4:07.5. That was back in 1985.
It will be interesting to see how much Bakken has left after already running in 2 races. It has to be very, very difficult to do. He won't get the triple that he wanted.
But I'll tell you what, if he can win this race and contribute 28 points to his team title, it's a pretty good day.
Pretty good day.
Remember, Bakken won the 3,200 going away, and stands are packed here at Eastern Illinois University, as they always are, in this track and field championship.
On what has turned out to be a beautiful day.
A big opportunity for York to pick up some points. They have 2 runners in this race. Mike Murata, a senior, had 4:20.2 in the sectionals. So for York, and thoughts of moving up in the team standings, 2 runners in the race and a big opportunity here. Once again, they'll take the first turn and they'll all break for the pole.
All eyes will be on Bakken.
Exchange student from Norway. Has been one of the premier track athletes in the state of Illinois this year. And all the runners converge very quickly. Many times you see somebody go down in a situation like that, but everything stays clean as they hit the 300-meter mark.
Make sure you have a step. It's Jason Gant, your leader.
Coming around the turn first is Jason Gant of Grays Lake. Gant of Grays Lake is first. Calvin Garth of Waukegan is second. Running third right now is Ed Reigert of Downers Grove North.
See Bakken starting to make his move on the inside there.
And that is Marius Bakken running in fourth right now. 400 meters gone. And once again, as far as the team fight is concerned, York running 4 and 8 right now as they again hit the back straightaway. But at this point of the race, 600 meters in, nobody's out of this thing yet. Jason Gant of Grays Lake continues to lead. see Marius Bakken now taking a position on the outside of the track just a little bit. The way the weather is today, if it had been the way it's been most of the spring, would have been better for Bakken if it had been a little cooler up in the northern part of the state today. Very cool and rainy, but down here in the southern part of the state, a little bit warm, not too bad, and a little more humid than it's been most of the spring, as now Bakken moves out to the front with 800 meters to go.
You'll hear the crowd following Leslie York.
Bakken moves out front, and look who's with him, Mike Murata, his teammate. You hear the assembled Dukes here in Charleston cheering their two favorites on. Now a strong move coming from the outside. That's David Gonzalez from Bolingbrook.
That's David Gonzalez moving into second.
Gonzalez number 2, Bakken number 1. And still running in the fight, but right now in third place is Waukegan's Calvin Garth. Bakken starting to stretch his lead a little bit. Only one time since they've gone to the class system in this track meet has somebody doubled up in the 1600 and 3200 meters. Marius Bakken is trying to become the second runner ever to do so.
In the gun lap now.
And now Marius Bakken is taking off. Will anybody be able to go with him? The runner with the best chance right now is Garth of Waukegan. 300 meters to go.
Oh, look at Bakken.
Remember back in the 800 meters, Bakken was certainly in the fight of the race. But he was, excuse me, Kenny, he was held off by Kyle Leonard, but Bakken now increasing his lead as he makes the turn for home.
And Gonzalez from Bolingbrook really trying. I don't think he'll have enough.
Marius Bakken, just the second runner since this meet was divided into the class system to win both the 1600 meters and the 3200 meters. He is the champion in AA 1600 meters for 1996, and Marius Bakken, go ahead and take a knee. He deserves the rest. 28 points today in this meet for Marius Bakken.
He didn't get the triple, boy, but he won 2 out of 3 and finished second in the other one. That's a pretty good day's work.
Yeah, what a great day for Marius Bakken. 4:12.26 is the time, unofficially.
He looks around, he sees no one around.
When you're a miler, Kenny, this is the best feeling in the world. You're feeling strong, you know nobody's closing in.
Yes.
And I'll tell you what, it's hard enough to win 2 events in one day, but when you go to the distance events and you get 2 firsts and a second in one day, that's almost unbelievable. Back with more from Charleston after this timeout. Still to come, we'll have the 200-meter dash and the finale, the 1600-meter relay. Rodney Session of East St. Louis Senior, the winner of the 300-meter hurdles, and he won it by a nose, and we do mean a nose, Kenny.
There you see it at the finish, a photo just by a nose. Rodney Session wins the 300-meter hurdles.
And finishing second in the race, we thought he might be disqualified, but that was not the case. Matt Rogers of Wheaton Warrenville South does get second place. Time now for the Class A 200-meter dash. Brian Huizenga of Fulton, 22.72 in the prelims. Babatunde Ridley, 22.58 in the prelims. Ridley has already won the 100, the long jump, and the triple jump. He's going for number 4 in this race.
Don't forget Chris Jones in lane 6.
Jones and Ridley, it's a duel that is expected to be the highlight of this track meet, and that is exactly the way it is turning out. Ridley in lane 4, Jones in lane 6, but it is going to be Ridley at the tape with the victory. Ridley of Carlinville, and do not forget that his team is battling for a Class A state title, and that 10 points will certainly aid their cause. So Jones, who earlier today won the 400-meter dash for the 4th time in his high school career, but Ridley, he becomes a 4-time winner as well by winning his 4th event of the day.
Incredible. 21.64. Earlier today, I said I thought he was the best athlete in the arena today, in the stadium, he shows right here. Jones put on quite a show, but Jones just couldn't win it. Just incredible.
Look at how quickly Ridley was able to eat up Brian Huizenga of Fulton.
Coming out of the turn, he gets out of the blocks extremely well, and he just picks him up and lays him down. This is his 4th victory today. Jones really gave him all he had, but he just couldn't win it. Ridley easily wins the 200.
Huizenga will come in 3rd place, but Babatunde Ridley, what a day he has had. Time now for the Class AA 200-meter dash. We saw Anthony Mormon win the 100-meter dash a little earlier. We saw him run 3rd on a relay. He will be in lane 4, 20.9 seconds in the sectional. Philandus Minter of Springfield Southeast, 21.0. That was his sectional time, but he came in here yesterday in the prelims and ran 21 and a half. The state record, Kerwin Body of Proviso West back in 1992, 21.18. Also, keep an eye on Elbert Simmons in lane 2 from Leo. You are looking at Seth Langley in lane 8. If he looks familiar to you, he is the IHSA Slam Dunk champion from earlier this year. Mormon in lane 4. Minter in lane 5.
Another clean start.
And it's Mormon making up the stagger as they come around the turn. Look at Mormon turning it on as they come down the front straightaway. Minter is really having to get on his horse if he's going to catch Mormon. And he's not going to. Mormon wins the 100. He wins the 200 as well. Anthony Mormon from Roselle Lake Park, unofficial time 21.19. And it's up there at 21.186, and depending on what the official time is, that could be the state record, because as I told you before the race, the state record is listed at 21.18.
Well, that's a state record if it holds up. Let's watch Anthony Mormon in lane 4. Gets off to a great start. We've had some pretty good starts today, but watch the way he makes up the stagger. He just comes flying out of that turn, and was there ever any doubt? He wins the 100. He comes in here now, and he wins the 200, and he's just flying. He came around that curve, made up the stagger with ease.
Another 10 points for Anthony Mormon.
If you notice, he did not lean. If he leans, he may have a state record. But he had such a big lead, he crossed the finish line standing up.
It's all a matter of what the official time is, and I'm sure that's one of the questions that Mormon is asking as he catches his breath just beyond the finish line. And Kenny and I have been covering the track events here all day, but it's only half of the story. The field events have been going on as well. Let's go to Andy Alcock, who has been following the events in the field.
Jim and Kenny, for the 2nd year in a row, Babatunde Ridley of Carlinville was a major star in the field events. He was shooting for a state record in the Class A long jump and a 2nd straight championship. Talk about a flair for the dramatic. Not only did Ridley win his 2nd straight long jump title, on his final leap, the senior broke the 6-year-old Class A record of 23 feet 10 3/4 inches, setting a new mark of 24 feet 2 inches.
I knew I could jump 24 because I've been jumping, but I scratched, you know. So I just made sure I didn't scratch and just put it out there.
Could you tell when you hit the landing board that this was going to be a good one?
Well, yeah, it felt better than the earlier jumps, and I sort of tried to line it up with the little blue cones they have there, and it looked good.
Junior Nate Atkinson of Joliet also saved his best for last in the AA long jump. Atkinson's final leap of 22 feet 7 inches after he changed his step won him the state title by a mere 1/4 of an inch.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, this ain't gonna happen. I didn't think I'm gonna hit the board. And then when I came down the runway, I hit the board. I knew I got it. I knew I had first place. I knew I was gonna pull it.
Like the long jump, Babatunde Ridley also successfully defended his Class A triple jump title. The University of Illinois-bound athlete won with a mark of 46 feet, 11 1/4 inches, set on the final day of competition.
Well, I just try to come out here and do my best, and if I win, then I'm happy. If I lose, then I gave it 100%, so still happy.
In the AA triple jump, Waukegan's Mike Richardson also won his second of back-to-back titles with a leap of 48 feet, 11 inches. Richardson is also headed to a Big Ten school on full scholarship.
I think it's a great accomplishment for me to win state 2 times in a row. But my biggest accomplishment was getting my scholarship to go to Ohio State.
Last year, in his first trip to the state meet, Maple Park Canelan's Craig Lyon finished 5th in the Class A high jump. This year, the senior won the title with a leap of 6 feet, 6 inches.
Oh, it was a great learning experience. With the pit and the facilities and everything overwhelms you your first year and you're nervous. Coming in the second year, you're more used to what's going on and the procedures, and you can just relax and do what you're capable of.
You'd expect a jumper to win the AA high jump. In fact, Springfield Lanphier's TJ jumper did it. The senior did it with a unique pre-jump ritual, including an old hat, shoelaces, and knee bends.
Well, the hat came from 7th grade. I was at IHSA state champion 7th and 8th grade, and so I just kept it along as good luck. And the shoelaces, I just try to keep them tied so when I go into my turn, I don't slip or nothing. So that's the only reason for the shoelaces.
It must work. Jumper's jump of 6 feet 11 inches won his first title on his third and final trip to the state meet. In the AA discus, another senior won his first state title. O'Fallon's Tom Barrett won his championship with a personal best toss of 185 feet 8 inches.
As soon as it left my fingers, my coach was already clapping. He was extremely happy with the throw just from the technique he saw. I had no idea it was going that far, though, so I was just happy.
In the Class A discus, Girard's Matt Maddox came into the final day of competition as the leader, one of 2 field events he had a chance to win. And in fact, the junior did win the discus with a toss of 175 feet 9 inches.
There's a lot of good throwers here today that could have got it, and I just got lucky and got a throw.
Maddox won his second state title in the Class A shot put with a put of 58 feet 5 1/2 inches.
I didn't have much pressures going in the first time. Since leading, it's a lot easier going in leading than coming in behind.
Senior Alex Smith won the AA shot put with a put of 58 feet 9 inches. It's the first ever state track and field title for Smith's Riverside Brookfield High School.
I knew I had to get off a good throw the first day because usually win it on the first day if you get a good throw off because it's hard to come back if you're down by a lot. So luckily I got a good throw off.
Sterling's Doug Densmore won the AA pole vault with a vault of 14 feet 9 inches.
I think experience played a big factor in me winning the championship today. I'd like to thank my pole vault coach Jim Black. Without him, I wouldn't have been here in the first place. So I think a great deal goes to him today.
4 years in a row, Anna Jonesboro's Matt Lasley has been to the state meet in the single A pole vault. This year, as a senior, Lasley took home his second state crown with a winning vault of 15 feet. What are your feelings about the 4 years that you've had a chance to compete here?
Oh, they've been very exciting. I've really enjoyed them. There's nothing been anything like it.
That's a look at today's field events. Coming up after this brief timeout, it's back to the track for the 1600. Stay tuned.
Time now for the final event of the 1996 Boys State Track Championship, the Class A 1600-meter relay. Maple Park Canelan, they will be in lane number 7. Knoxville, best time in the prelims. They had 3:26.10. 4 by 400 meters. And this race, you do see some people can start without the blocks because in this race, you get some people who aren't necessarily sprinters sometimes.
Exactly. They just want to get out, get a good lead, they'll be okay.
You just need, this is a very difficult race to stock for a team because it's very hard to find on your team 4 people who can run the quarter mile very well. It is one of the more difficult races to run in the sport of track.
Maybe the most difficult race to run.
And right now, taking the lead in this race, way out in lane 8. Sparta with the lead, but once again, remember, the full stagger has yet to quite be made up. Running for Sparta is John Youngie. He's starting to run out of gas as he moves toward the handoff. The first handoff coming in lane 3. That would be Byron. And as they head onto the backstretch for the second time, they all start to break for the pole. One thing to watch in this race, too, where it gets quite interesting is when they start to make their handoff, because the track officials, the start-finish line, they have to keep constantly rearranging the people for their handoffs to make sure that the right ones are there, because theoretically, if your teammate is in first place in the race, you should have the inside position to get the handoff.
Well, you can see right now the track officials are down there positioning guys.
And closing at the wire, that is Byron's Nate Buser. He is going to hand off to Mike Zumdahl, and Byron hanging on to the lead. Mike Zumdahl, a junior right now with the baton for Byron. And he looks like he might be starting to tie up a little bit in the back stretch. 200 meters to go in the third leg of the 1,600-meter relay for the Class A title. And once again, the toughest thing for you, you're tired, you're running down the front straightaway, you've got to find where your teammates are.
And get a clean handoff.
One of the things you want to do is certainly make certain of the handoff. For Harrisburg, running the anchor leg is Patton Seagrave.
Well, look at Chris Jones.
And now Chris Jones, he picks up the baton in 8th place, and he's already moved up to 5th. Harrisburg continues to lead. Patton Seagraves, he's a freshman, and he's trying to bring it home for his teammates, but he's being challenged at the front of the pack. Look at Jones still making up ground. Chris Jones has pulled Lake Park into 4th place. Chris Jones looks like he's moved up as far as he's going to get, but at the front of the pack, Knoxville. Justin Bryant, a junior, carrying home the baton. Knoxville will finish first. Byron coming in second. I think those guys are a little happy today.
Not only are they happy, they have to be tired.
It is a difficult race because many times the same people you have running this race have run other races during the day. And that last 100 meters of a full lap around the track late in the day, you really begin to feel it.
I think we saw that with Chris Jones, who has run a couple of races today. Once he got about 50 meters from the finish line, he really started to slow up. Here's your last turn. Knoxville doing a fine job, though, Jimmy.
Look how far back Jason Reynolds of Byron came from to pick up second place for his team.
Yeah, he really comes a long way.
And it's a great move by getting that far out in the track. Get out where there's no traffic. You have some guys tying up, finishing 3rd and 4th, so get out where you have some room to run. And he would have had another 50 meters, he might have won the thing.
And he picks up, what, 8 points?
Picks up 8 points for his team. Double A 1,600-meter relay, the final event, and it all could very well be decided right here. The main combatants for the state title, East St. Louis Senior, they are in lane 2 to start. Wheaton-Warrenville South, they are in lane 5. York will be in lane 4. This is, once again, we'll make the point because this is almost a hybrid event. You can use distance guys here. You can use sprinters. So this is one of the very few events that we've seen York go head-to-head, which is a distance-dominated team, go head-to-head with Wheaton-Warrenville South and East St. Louis Senior. They are sprint-dominated teams.
Well, York won this yesterday, followed by Wheaton-Warrenville South. So this really should be a great battle between the two favorites here in Charleston.
The state record held by Thornton, 320.2 back in 1985. In the sectionals, Thornton The version of 1996, they were 320.2, and East St. Louis Senior in lane 2, they were 320.3. So a lot to be decided here on the final event. Very well, the state title may rest on what numbers are put up in this last championship event.
Leo in lane 1.
Guitar Anderson will lead it off for East St. Louis Senior. Chris Strafford will lead it off for Leo. And Leo just got off to a bad start early in the day when they had a missed exchange in the 4x100 relay. So they've got a chance to redeem themselves.
And Session is also on this East St. Louis Senior team.
Rodney Session will run the anchor leg for East St. Louis Senior. Jamar Collins will lead off for Wheaton Warrenville South. So in this final event of the IHSA State Track and Field Meet, you maybe have the best collection of the athletes represented today on the track at the same time. Session is out there. Jamar Collins is out there. Starter is out there. Need one of those.
And before we start, I would like to wish you and your lovely wife a happy 10th wedding anniversary.
Well, thank you, Kenny. It was very nice. She was kind enough to spring me for the day. Let me come down here.
Many, many more.
She said she figured after 10 years I can live without you for one day, I guess.
Let's see what Leo can do here in lane 1. We haven't heard much from Leo today. That one bad exchange earlier this afternoon, as you said, Jimmy, and they've been awfully quiet.
And before we get on out of here, we also want to send our thanks and congratulations and best luck in the future and any other good wish you can think of to Ola Bundy, who throughout the year has been honored at various stops on the IHSA. She's been one of the main driving forces in the IHSA office, and she's retiring at the end of this academic year. So thanks to Ola Bundy and everybody in the IHSA for the great job they've done of helping us throughout the year, not just today at the IHSA State Track. Runners on the blocks. We will keep an eye first on Guitar Anderson of East St. Louis in lane 2. Wheaton Warrenville South and East St. Louis Senior, they are also battling for the AA title. That's one of the sidebars to this race. Wheaton Warrenville South has changed up their lead runner. It is not Jamar Collins. I believe that is Matt Rogers. Leading the way down the front straightaway is Nick Piazza, a junior for New Lenox Lincoln Way. They have to stay in their lanes until they get around to the pole on the other side, and then everybody will break for the inside lane. Clean handoff for East St. Louis. Marcus Lee now with the baton. He's a sophomore, and he looks to really have the advantage. In lane 1, Quincy Jones, one of Kenny's favorites today for Leo, is right now running in 3rd place. Chicago Heights Bloom in 2nd place. Jameel Lawson, a senior, carrying the baton at the moment.
East St. Louis Senior with the lead, but look out.
James C. will get the baton next for East St. Louis Senior, and then it will be Rodney Session. 3rd leg of the race. East St. Louis Senior still has the lead. Chicago Heights Bloom in 2nd. Philandus Ellis now has the baton for the Trojans.
And now he's putting a little gap between East St. Louis Senior and the rest.
The battle right now is for 2nd place. But still, a little over 600 meters to go in the final event of the state championship track meet. East St. Louis Senior 1, Chicago Heights Bloom number 2. Leo running number 3. York has come up 4th.
Rodney Session ready to get the baton.
The hurdler extraordinaire who won both hurdle events. But the question is, will Chicago Heights Bloom have the lead at the handoff? Leo closing as well. Rodney Session for East St. Louis Senior has the baton. For Chicago Heights Bloom, it's Steve Edwards. And for Leo, running with the baton, Brandon Hughes.
Look at Hughes.
And Jamar Collins running the anchor for Wheaton Warrenville South.
He was listed as the first, but now they put him on the anchor leg, and I see why.
And depending on how the points are shaked out, this could very well be for the state title as well. Not just in this race, but in the entire AA track meet. Jamar Collins is number one, but now closing for East St. Louis Senior is Rodney Session. Two of the better athletes in the meet today. Session once again is going to get it at the wire.
Collins looked over his right shoulder, and that's something you cannot do. When he looked, he saw Session then pass him. When Collins looked, it threw him off stride. Session goes right by, and he wins. What an afternoon for Rodney Session.
Wheaton Warrenville South, number 2. Make that number 3. Bloom, number 4. Leo, 5. And Thornton ends up finishing number 6. What an afternoon for Rodney Session, and what an afternoon for East St. Louis Senior High School. That's Jamar Collins making the first move, trying to track down Steve Edwards of Bloom.
You see, he comes, I think maybe thinking he used up too much of his energy too soon.
Either that or he forgot the Session was back there. Didn't think he might have had that much, Kenny.
Well, I tell you what, Session we saw finish so well in the hurdles. Here comes Collins. He's in control, but watch Session. Just decide, okay, let's turn it on. We saw what he could do in the hurdles once he gets down within 50 meters. Now look at Session. You see Collins, Session. Now watch, and you'll see he'll turn and look. See right here?
Kenny, I don't think he realized the Session was coming up on him.
Well, you can never look. You have to go straight ahead. You can't worry about what's next to you or behind you. Once he looked, Session won it and said, oh my goodness.
What a day for Rodney Session, the Flyers from East St. Louis Senior. When we come back, we will take a look at the final standings in this meet. Wheaton Warrenville South, Jamar Collins certainly did his part today to try and deliver a state title to his team. Rodney Session and the rest of his Flyer teammates, they did the job as well. Who are the champions? We will find out coming up after this timeout. And back at O'Brien Stadium on the campus of Eastern Illinois University, the track meet is done with. The champions have been crowned. Kenny, only a few people get to walk out of here with medals around their necks and crowned as champions. But yet I think as the years go by, if you even get to participate in the state track meet, you feel like a champion.
But there's no losers here this afternoon. A beautiful day. When you can get to the state and qualify, believe me, you are a champion.
All right, let's take a look now at the top 3 teams in each one of the classes. We will start out in Class 3A. Luther South finishing in 3rd place. Had some great relays. They'll take home the number 3 trophy. Number 2, Rushville. They got off to a great start early. They come in 2nd place. And number 1 from Carlinville. And one of the reasons why they finished first was Babatunde Ridley. And just a little while ago, Kenny had a chance to talk with the star of the Class A meet.
The star of the Class A track meet has to be Babatunde Ridley. You won the 100, the 200, set a record in the long jump and also the triple jump. That's a pretty good day's work.
Well, yeah, coming down here, we just try to stay focused and get our job done and not get too cocky, not try to think about winning 4. And I think it's worked out. Coach is keeping us under control, and as you can see, it's worked out for the better.
How difficult was it on you personally to have to compete in 4 different events?
Well, it wasn't that hard because usually I do the 4 anyway, so it's just the 2 days. I didn't know what I'd feel like today after competing yesterday, so it worked out.
Now, you set the record in the long jump, the state record. Here it is on our monitor. What's going through your mind on this record-setting jump?
Well, I just wanted to run down there, get on the board, try to get my foot under me, and get up in the air. That's about it.
when they told you you set the state record, how did you feel?
Well, I felt real happy because usually I just blow it off, but state record, that's big, and I'm pretty proud.
Now, which event do you like doing the most?
Well, I really don't know. I like them all.
Well, hey, we want to wish you the best of luck in college. Hey, you did a great job here today. Good luck in the future.
All right, thank you.
And congratulations to Babatunde Ridley and the rest of the Carlinville team that wins the Class A title. The AA title, we'll get to that in a second, but first of all, let's honor the third-place team from Elmhurst, York. They take home the third-place trophy this year. They were one of the teams believed to have a chance at winning the title, but it didn't quite work out that way today. Number 2 in Class AA, East St. Louis Senior, did a great job in the hurdles and a great job in the sprints. They finished number 2, and the state champions in AA, Wheaton Warrenville South. Earlier in the year, we were preparing for a high school football game, a playoff game, Palatine and Wheaton Warrenville South. And Wheaton Warrenville South coach John Thorne said one of the reasons we're successful is because our guys are competitors. They not only play football, they play other sports, and they're winners. They proved it today. They won the 6A football title in the fall. They win the Class AA track championship in the spring. Marius Bakken did not win the 3 events he entered, but he had 28 points and became only the second runner in IHSA history since the split of the 2 track meets to win both the 1,600 meters and the 3,200 meters. I had a chance to speak with him moments ago. People on the outside look at your triples, 800, 1,600, 3,200, and talk about how difficult it is. For you that has to do it, do you see it as being difficult?
It's not difficult to do it, but it's difficult to prepare to do it. If you're prepared enough and if you're well enough trained, it's not a problem because you have an hour in between. And also if you're on the 2 mile first and if you have the base and everything, then you can run it pretty much without producing that much lactic acid, and you can come back and do the other races. I mean, it's hard, but if you're well enough trained, it's definitely possible to do.
As for the weather today, normally in Illinois this time of year, we can get some wicked heat and humidity. The temperature wasn't that high. The humidity was a little bit up. But as you got up this morning and saw the weather, did you think, geez, I've got a chance just based on the weather today?
Yeah, I thought so, and I followed the weather forecast during the week, and I told myself that the weather, if it's nice, I can do this. If it's very humid and hot, I might have a problem, but I just have to give it a shot.
You came very close to doing it. We're going to take a look at the end of the 2 mile, which was the first race.
Yeah.
You destroyed the field in this race. You had a big lead. Was there any question in your mind that maybe you won this race a little bit too quickly and didn't save enough for the 800?
No, not really. I paced myself, and I was right on pace at the mile, and I just kind of cruised along, and I felt good about it, so it wasn't a problem.
The 800, you came so close in that race. It was a great effort to hold you off. Were you disappointed when that race ended because there was no chance at getting the triple, but you still had a chance at winning the mile and the 2 mile?
Yeah, well, what I told myself was that I got 8 points in that race instead of 10. That was what I thought, and if I get second, I mean, some people say that second is nowhere, but you know, it was just hard to get back from the 2 mile that fast, and just the mindset to just totally go around and run the half mile and run that first lap in 55 seconds. That's totally different mental setting you have to have. So I went out way too slow. That was my problem.
Now, how did you end up coming to York High School when you put in for the exchange program in Norway? You come to one of the premier distance high school programs in the country. Tell us how that came about.
Well, it was a coincidence. Believe it or not, I just wrote in my applications that I liked running, and the program, they put me at York, and that's how it happened. I did not put out any times or anything like that, just I liked running.
When you go back to Norway and you tell people about your experience going to high school here in Illinois, what will you tell them about?
I don't know yet. It's going to be... I have a lot of things to tell them. I don't know if they believe everything, but I have my clippings from the newspapers and everything, so I guess I just have to show them.
Marius, thanks for performing in the meet, and thanks for coming over here. We're all a little better off for having you perform here in the United States.
Okay, thanks a lot.
One thing you have to win state champions and even finish in the top 3, as we've seen in this meet today, Kenny, is you've got to have stars in track. And we certainly saw a lot today. Mormon, Ridley, Bakken, Session, great performance.
We saw some great performances. Robert Session, East St. Louis Senior, he goes away with 4 gold medals. You know, he was just superb in that 300 relay. He was just unbelievable. We saw some great stars today.
All right, and we thank you for joining us today for the State Track and Field Championships for 1996. And at this time, Sports Channel would like to thank David Fry, Ola Bundy, and all the great folks at the Illinois High School Association who make this championship event possible. And we would also be remiss if we did not thank David Kidwell and the entire staff here at Eastern Illinois University for everything they do to make this one of the premier events during the course of the academic year. Today's Track and Field Championships were produced and directed by Tim Sutton. Our graphics coordinator today was Matt Luke. The coordinating producer of IHSA events on Sports Channel is Dave Turner. The production manager is Sheila Brown. The VP of programming for Sports Channel is Mike Bogad. And the remote facilities were provided by Trio Video of Chicago.